It is 4 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone. I call the Yelm Planning Commission meeting to order. Today is October the 21st, Monday. Staff, would you please do roll call for us?
Commissioner Carlos Perez.
Here.
Commissioner Bob Howard is excused. Commissioner John Graver is not here right now. Commissioner Richard Lomsdale.
Here.
Commissioner Ann Warman here. Commissioner David Johnstone is not here right now, and Commissioner Austin Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Very well. Agenda item number 3, would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Counselor.
Yeah.
All right. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the attached minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion that we approve the minutes from September 16th.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Staff, are there any communications that we need to be aware of?
No updates today.
Okay. All right, is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to address the commission? Please come forward. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and there should be matters that are listed on the agenda. Also, if there's anyone that wants to comment, just come on up to the podium and give me your name and address for the record. No one? Very well. Agenda item number 7, unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business from the last meeting, staff?
No, sir.
New business. Is there any new business that we need to?
Yes, sir. So today is going to be devoted to discussing launching the comprehensive plan update. I mean, it has been launched. However, you probably are not aware, but we parted ways with our consultant on this update. Communication just was not flowing, and they were out of state. So they were going to have to make an extra effort to really be in touch. So we have decided that we're going to do most of it in-house.
Wow.
With the exception of probably hiring a consultant to help us with the transportation element, because there's, modeling and such involved with that. And we also have a consultant who's helping us with one of the new elements, which is climate change and resiliency.
When did this first come about? Gary?
Oh, well, it kind of started from the very beginning. It's just seemed like a lot of the requests for information and trying to set priorities were just not hitting the mark with the consultant. And we weren't getting a lot of information feedback. Show up to meetings where we hadn't spoken in 2 weeks and there'd be no agenda and things like that.
Yes.
So it was just, we decided, and when we got the consultant, it was basically, I can't remember if Clayton was here or not. I don't think so, but it was just me. But now I've got Clayton and Drew, and they're both very able, and they're going to be taking the lead on some of the chapters. So we think we can do it more efficiently, and actually it's to the benefit of the city because the grant money will now basically, be helping pay our salaries instead of the consultant's salary.
Excellent.
So yeah, it's kind of exciting, and I'm not going to be here forever, so this is a good opportunity for these two guys too to stick their feet in the water or what have you. Toe in the water, I don't know. So I guess that's the first part. I had prepared what I thought was a very lovely presentation to give you, and it turns out I worked at home this morning I didn't attach it to the email I sent to Hazel. So I'm gonna be working from memory on this today, and it should be pretty brief because it's really just to get us kicked off and get going. Um, some of you have been on the planning commission for a long time, and this is not your first rodeo with plan updates, but the comprehensive plan is basically the umbrella plan for all the other plans and the codes in the city. It's kind of like, it sets the vision, whether it's for parks or coming up with new municipal code, all of those things. So it is a 20-year plan. That doesn't mean that you only revise it every 20 years. You can actually revise it annually because obviously things change. Zoning might change, you might desire to have a different kind of land use in a certain part of the city, those kinds of things. So you can update it annually, but we're required to do a comprehensive update of it every 10 years. And that's what we're doing right now. So we're going through the entire plan. It's got several chapters, but they refer to them as elements in the code. And I wanted to show you this particular section of the code. So this is all coming out of the Growth Management Act, Washington State Growth Management Act, and RCW 3678070 lays out all of the mandatory elements that have to be in the plan. One of those is a little bit misleading because even though it says it's mandatory, it's still optional because the state never provided funding to do that particular one. That's the parks element.
That's why, yeah,
So you.
we did that within the Parks Board ourselves. We wrote it
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah, and a lot of cities have both. They have both, which I've always found curious that you have it in both the comp plan and the parks plan. We have a parks element in here from previous updates, but I'm still tossing around whether we should just reference the existing parks plan. So our element would be fulfilled by the update that is going on with the parks plan.
We need to do a pretty thorough update of the Parks Plan because we've completed all of the elements that we have listed in the Parks Plan from prior comprehensive plan. But I recall it was the same consulting group that was going to be doing the Parks Plan update. So I believe.
I know you have that impression, but we do not have anybody hired to do the parks update.
Well, Cody met with us in the Parks Plan.
I asked him about it, so we can follow back up on that, but as of right now, we have no consultant working on the parks plan.
I bet we have no consultant working on the Parks Plan at all.
Okay. So anyway, because these elements are mandatory, if you look at comprehensive plans across the state, at least as far as cities go, they're gonna be organized exactly the same way. And you have a lot of differences inside those elements. County plans are a little different because they all have other required elements. They have rural lands that they have to plan for, and they have long-term timber and agricultural lands that they have to plan for. We don't do that in the city. So the elements that we have to do are land use. And these are all spelled out in here, they're numbered. This is a really kind of densely compacted deal. And in my presentation, I had it actually sifted out, but I will send it to you after the meeting so you can see. It's a much more abbreviated. But for the comp plan that we are doing, we have to do a land use element. In that element, we would be doing things like population projections, housing projections. There are other elements that are new this year, and again, that'll be pointed out in the information I send you after the meeting. We have to start developing wildland fire strategies in the city. There's another element in there that says that we should, it says when possible, which is kind of weird. Because, I mean, I think it's always possible, but we need to start looking for strategies that sort of promote even though it's in the land use, it's also in the transportation, sort of non-motorized transportation, promote health and well-being and things like that. The second element is the housing element. Drew's going to be the lead on that. He's been helping me with some of the stuff coming out of our housing action plan. I mean, we're all gonna be working on this. We're all gonna have different working point content, you know. Any more? Steal one. Thank you. The housing element is going to require a lot of changes. Sorry about that. We've had all kinds of housing legislation in the last 2 or 3 years, having to do with affordable housing. So a lot of updates in there. A lot of that will then translate into code updates too. The example I always use is like now, because they're trying to get more housing, cities are required to allow up to 2 accessory dwelling units on every residential lot. That's pretty new. So we've been doing a lot of stuff with housing with the county, doing housing allocations, land capacity to fit the housing needs. We have to do something called anti-displacement strategies. That has to do with programs where you can provide assistance to people to refurbish their homes so that they don't get displaced because they can't afford to live there anymore, things like that. Those wouldn't necessarily be city-run programs, but we will be looking for partners or links or information that we can provide people to help them.
What we're talking about, wheelchair access, that kind of stuff.
That's a good example, or it could be mold. That's a big one right now that the other cities are talking about, mold abatement. Maybe it's a roof. I don't know, but just things that, you know, that people who can't afford it could end up losing their home.
Right.
And so all of those kind of strategies are going to be required to put into the housing element. The third one is capital facilities. That's a very simple one. I think we basically have that one done. Working with Pat Hughes and Reza, we've got a list of the capital facilities projects that the city needs to do, and that has to be over the next 10 years. And even though it's a transportation facility, it includes those projects in there.
In parks,
Parks.
this time we included the parks, and that's the one segment that I said is, we need a lot of work done on coming up with our new set of projects that have to be done,
Yeah,
and that would go into the facilities plan.
there is a list in the old one right now, so that's something we'll go over. In the parks plan normally too, I don't know if you have it now, you probably do, but making sure that we have the right level of service. How many acres based on population and proximity to parks and things like that.
I did that last time, so it's good to know that I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, and then obviously from that, you come up with a number of acres and a number of types of parks, and you figure out whether or not we're meeting that demand and what our objectives are for the future.
Right.
The fourth one is transportation, and that's a big one. And again, that's the one that I think that we're gonna need the most outside assistance with. We're gonna be needing to do transportation modeling, also probably comparing it back to the capital facilities chapter to see if the, you know, the projects that we have slated are gonna meet the demands based on what we've projected our transportation needs are gonna be. Once again, there's a really heavy emphasis on multimodal forms of transportation. And we need to develop strategies for biking and walking and transit. And what I envision there is that we will have, we have an ancient map that you can barely even decipher for bike routes in the city. It's an old black and white fuzzy thing that looks like it's been copied over about 50 times. But I want to revisit that and really start trying to develop, you know, a bike route plan for the future. And also thinking about marrying that up to road standards for where those routes are to make sure that we have either bike lanes or our shared pathways that bikes can use so that there's connectivity for that.
Karen, we have ones that we share with Thurston County. I've been working with Brad on those. The bike lanes and the trails and how they match up to provide future bike lanes as well as future trails. that kind of thing. So Brad has a lot of that. So there's people we can
Our
pull
Brad.
together. Our Brad,
Okay.
our Brad.
Yeah,
that-
okay. Yeah, for sure. One good example is Roden Road is about to get reconstructed and they're gonna have a shared pathway there. So anyway, just figuring out ways to make those connections. And starting to do other things like have bike racks. So that you have a place to park your bike when you get to your destination. Just try to make it bike and pedestrian friendly as possible. Does it come tomorrow? I guess it does. The next element is the utilities element. That too is mostly straightforward. It's basically showing, where your sewer is, where your water is, where the, kind of the electricity grid is, and I'm real fuzzy on that one. We do have some things that we need to put in there that weren't in the last one, which is just a lot of maps, showing the location of those things. But again, that one's gonna be, probably you'll just rubber stamp that. We're just gonna be showing where things are. The next one is economic development. I'm not an economic development expert and I haven't really reviewed that element much up to now, been focused more on the land use stuff. But it would be setting the goals and objectives of the city to try to become, more or less friendly to economic growth. What sorts of strategies would we be implementing on that? Then the other one is parks, which I said is an optional one, and we can still think about that. Like if the parks plan update is not going at pace, we might do it in the comp plan
And I'd like to talk to Cody about the Parks board
yeah.
taking that on, because we did it before,
Yeah.
and I think that that's something that we could do again.
Yeah, that'd be great because that gives us another kind of team to be doing this in parallel so that we can just plug it into the. That'd be great. And then the last element, which is required, is a brand new element. You want to go on down there? You got it? Yes. Climate change and climate resiliency. So it's brand new. Clayton is going to be the lead on this. He knows as much about it as I do. And on this one, we got a lot of money from Commerce. We got a $500,000 grant on this. And so we do have a consultant initially the 500,000 was going to be split between two consultants. We have a consultant named Confluence Environmental, and they're doing our habitat conservation plan. We've worked really well with them. They're going to be doing all of the climate modeling for City of Yelm, and that information, that technical information, then needs to get transferred over into a set of goals and strategies for addressing climate issues in the city. We'll be taking now the other half of that. So that's about another 250,000 to the city and 250,000 to the consultant. And so far they're right on track.
I'm curious, Gary, just how is it that they expect the city to have any control over the climate reduction, gas emissions and all that kind of stuff? How is that?
Well, I think that kind of feeds back into the other strategies, the multimodal forms of multimodal
okay.
transportation, and looking at, for example, and I don't know the full answer to that question because it's going to play out. It's a new thing, but looking at the inner city transit stuff again, like, right now it seems to me the no-brainer is to at least change inner city transit routes to make it go up and down to Homa Boulevard. Doesn't take it out of the way. It comes right back. It gets back on course. We've had not a lot of success with inner city transit and making that what seemed to me like an easy decision. But those are the kinds of ideas.
There's also work that's going on to put in a solar facility by Puget Sound Energy.
Yeah.
provides backup energy. So there's some things that are like that could be mentioned, saying this is how we're moving away from other energy sources.
Yeah. And I think even things like, I've been reading that they have grant programs where people can replace their old wood stoves with wood stoves that are much more fuel efficient or release a lot less junk into the air. Those kinds of things. So that's an overview of what those elements are. The land use element is the most important element. It's kind of the anchor for the comp plan, and all the other elements in the comp plan need to refer back to the land use and derive their information from the land use. So that's the one that we're gonna start on. And kind of laid out the roles and responsibilities, which will be in your presentation. But for the planning commission, I'd like for you to obviously go through that first element, the land use element. It's not super long. And the way I'm envisioning this is that we will take it one element at a time. And both you folks will, you know, look at the element, look at the current goals and policies. See if they're lacking to you, or whether there are things that since the last update you think need to be added. One thing I want to emphasize is that we don't have to rewrite everything in there. A lot of those things will still be relevant today. You know, we're probably going to be adding a few things, maybe modifying a few things, but it's not like we're going to do a thorough, throw it out the door and write a new chapter. So
Gary, this is, if I recall, and you can, and John too, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the way we used to do it,
yeah,
This is the way we used to do it.
just like what you're explaining.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we did.
yeah. Well, once again, maybe if it weren't for the fact that I was really lacking in planners, we might have started out this way to begin with.
Gotcha. Sure.
And this is a more comfortable way for me to do it, I guess, too, because now I know what's going on.
Of course. Well, that's kind of the way I felt when you
Yeah.
announced that we were gonna have an outside study group doing this. I said, well, what
What
part
do
are
we
we
do?
playing in this thing?
Yeah,
All right, great.
well, ideally, they would have been doing what we're trying to do right now.
Yes.
It's gonna be what this. But anyway, so, yeah, if you could look at that chapter, and I also had another document that I was gonna show you today that we're gonna send to you, and it's called the periodic update checklist. And it also goes through all of the chapters. And I was gonna ask that you obviously just look at the land use part of that checklist. It's something that, oh yeah, you can pull it up, I forgot.
Well, I have looked at this land use thing and I've got some comments. You want to wait till later on? For the
Well, I was
comment?
hoping maybe we could do it next month, because what we're gonna do in the intervening month is we are gonna also do our markups and share them with you.
Oh, okay, so this is from the original 2017.
Combine our thoughts.
Must be.
And so this is the checklist that Department of Commerce provides.
Yes.
And if you could scroll down a little bit, Andrew. Pretty long, Andrew. Yeah, just when you get to right there.
Okay.
So it goes through the elements one at a time, and on the left-hand side, it notes changes that have been made in the legislation, and I don't know how far back it goes. But it asks, you know, is this in your current comp plan? If not, or even if yes, do you think you need to do any updates? So this was my stab at the checklist. It's pretty long, it's like 42 pages, but we're only gonna go a section at a time, so it's only a few pages for the land use. And I'm just gonna ask as we go forward, when we work on each of the elements, that you pull up this checklist as well and kind of compare it to what's in the element.
You're gonna
if you-
send that to us.
Yeah, we're gonna send that to you. Both that and the presentation.
So this land use portion that you gave us from the old comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's from the 2017 plan.
That's from the
But
27.
that's gonna be our working document.
Right.
So again, a lot of that could remain the same.
Yeah.
You know, some
Yeah, I
things,
just-
some objectives
Yeah.
never go away. So can you scroll down a tad bit? So, okay, right there, that orange dot, that means legislation from last year, so it's brand new. The other is legislation from previous years, but, so we may or may not have incorporated that already into the land use element. And so I've kind of done my best to show where things are in the plan. That's the column right next. So right.
Oops.
Too far.
Okay, so the first column is saying what is required to be in there. The second column is asking whether it is in there, and if it is, where is it? So if you could again scroll down a little bit, Andrew. So if you see that bottom box there, tried to go into the comp plan and find where those things are in the comp plan based on the goals and everything else. And then the next one is, do you need to do any changes? And I will have said yes or no. A lot of them I say yes. And we can discuss those, whether we actually have to or not. Some of them are like, yeah, it'd be nice to change that. And I just kind of give some examples in the where you see those bullets. So anyway, if you could look at that alongside looking at the land use element. Come up with any suggestions you may have for things that we might want to add, maybe some things, and we can add more than what they're asking for. If you think there's something really important that needs to be put into our land use element. And so then my vision on how we're going to do this is we both get together, we give you the changes we've worked up, we take in your suggestions as well, marry them up, and try to more or less adopt each chapter one at a time. So if we get done with the land use element, we vote, yay or nay, hopefully yay. We say, this is the draft we want. We adopt it here, we set it aside, and then we pick up the next one and do housing. We do that all the way through until we get to the end, and then finally at the end, we'll have a vote on the comp plan as a whole, which at that point, since you've approved all the other elements, should be fine, but just for process, adopt the comp plan as a whole with a recommendation to send it to council for adoption.
I have a suggestion to mention that the last time we did this, the 2017, at least my recollection is that we created some subgroups by section that would focus in and really meet together as was allowed to meet to work through it, in depth. That's what I recall. I don't know, John, do you remember? Can we have some?
Yeah, but I think we had more to do than,
Yes.
know.
Because we were starting pretty much from
Yeah, scratch, yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, we can consider that going forward. Like right now, for the land use, I think most of the data we do have available to fill in and provide for you. All of the housing stuff, we've done so much work on housing and population in the last year that it's going to be kind of plug and play for that. I think the main thing that's going to be a challenge, well, and we'll be taking, I'm thinking about housing, but we have our housing action plan, which you all approved a year and a half ago. We want to really look at some of these other plans to see what we can take from them and pull into them. Maybe at some point when we get to that, we might break up the into groups, that is, not break up. As of now, I don't see the need for the land use element, but let's just see. It looks like we do need to do that, certainly. So anyway, I guess next month is going to be sort of the real kickoff. I mean, we'll be giving you a marked up land use element, and we can meet and start talking about. The one other thing that I think we might hire a consultant to help us with is I would really like our plan to have a great look. I'd like to consider getting a consultant to help us basically do graphic design on the plan. Start getting some good photographs in it, maybe some illustrations if need be as to what we're talking about. I've seen a lot of good codes, and I think it would do the same for the plan where, for example, the sign code or where they show actual visual examples of what, this is what we mean by that, you know, this is a monument sign, this is how we measure it, this is where we place it, that kind of stuff, so. I'd really like to make it look great and. You know, when Marion was here, she was really excited about the idea when we hired our first consultant because they were pretty flashy. The idea of submitting it to the American Planning Association for maybe a small communities award and haven't ruled that out still.
So let's thinking in terms of the review process or the process that you envision. Is there any way to shorten it so that, you know, because what it looks like now is we're gonna do one element a month?
It depends on what happens next month. I mean, some might take some, you know, well, for example, again, like the capital facilities and the utilities, you can almost scratch those off your list. That's probably because there's really not, you know.
When's it due to the council to get approved? When do we have to send it to the council? 25, 24?
December 30th, 2025.
25, that's what I thought. So we got lots of time.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Okay.
We do have a deadline to spend our grant money by June 30th of 2025, but I think we can do that. We just do all the grant work up front. Make sure we get reimbursed.
It's just that I didn't want to have extended, you know,
Yeah.
you get your thing, then we look at it, then, change this word or something like that. And then you have to go back and you do that, and they go back to us again. You know, what, we
Yeah.
really don't want to do that.
That's what I was saying. We did actual work sessions.
Yeah, I recall doing it when I did it that way.
Yeah, so that's the other piece that I think we need to work out, and I need to go back and look at the scope of work for the grant, but we'll need to have some public participation type engagement. I mean, we've done some. When the consultant first got here, he met with the Squally Tribe, Chamber, I forget who all, but I mean, we have done the initial outreach, but not much came of it. We do have the web page. We still have that. We'll be posting things on that.
But the difference with work sessions is that you can, rather than concentrate on our agenda as we go through, we can, if we have a work session that's focused on, say, one or two of the sections, we can actually meet and simply focus on that.
Yeah.
It's just a work session.
Well,
It's
we can
not-
make next month a work session if you want to. I mean, that's kind of what I envision it being anyway.
Well, that happens to be the one I told Hazel that I'm not gonna be able to be here.
No wonder you were pushing for it.
It's just.
But does it have to,
when-
does it have to be on a planning meeting?
No, that's what we
Hey,
did. We
yeah.
did it at different times.
That's right.
That was-
Or we could reschedule the planning meeting or whatever. Let's talk about that after the meeting.
Yeah, I like that.
Figure out what your schedules are gonna be and I have no problem with just making it a work session, because that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna show up with stuff, you're gonna show up with stuff, and we're gonna try to hammer it out.
Right. And, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So that's really all I have right now, just to try to give you that
Very good.
idea of what we're doing and where we're going.
Question for you, Gary, regarding the housing element, I know that Lacey and Olympia both have pre-permitted plans for ADUs available. Is that something that City of Yelm is considering?
We partnered with them on that, so
Okay.
we've already agreed to that, and in fact, I mean, I need to check, I checked my email, but I can't remember if they've been completed or not. They had some from previous years, and then this last year we partnered to get them updated. But yeah, we're gonna, and they're also updated to show the sizes of ADUs that are coming. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the sizes are incredible. Right now, it's 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, I mean, they can go smaller than that if they want to, but we can't require them to go smaller than that, which I find with all the housing stuff that's going on, that was part of the new legislation. And I probably told, I don't remember who all I've told this to, but we just had the 29 lot subdivision that simultaneously built 29 accessory dwelling units on the same lot. They're 850 square feet and they're renting for $2,200 a month. So we're getting credit for those as being affordable in our housing.
Affordable.
So, but you know, even 850 square feet is 2,200 a month.
Way too funny.
So it's a big problem, getting to these numbers. We have, Yelm got hit the hardest in the housing allocation, than any other of the cities, just because our percentage of existing affordable housing is lower than the others. So we have a longer, bigger gap. We're supposed to provide 7,500 units total over the next 20 years. And I think approximately half of those are at the table. I think approximately half of those are supposed to be affordable. And that's anything from 0 to 30%, 30 to 50%, 50 to 80%. And that means that area median income. We got a huge number of 0 to 30%. And when I say provide, we don't provide it, we don't build it, we don't make anyone build it, but we have to come up with strategies to make it attractive for people.
Incentivize.
It's in the housing section. Of
It-
the plan.
Well, it will be. This is all work that's just been done over the last year.
We just have to pull from what's already been done.
Pull it all together. And when we get to housing, we'll start talking about the legislation. Well, that's, yeah, that's,
Oh, that's a deficit.
yeah, that was from the land capacity analysis, which is a little different.
Oh.
But it does show Yelm is having a deficit of land capacity up to 2,300 units of affordable housing. And that's another thing we have to look at, like in terms of our land use stuff. I mean, we've heard a lot of resistance from folks in the community about creating more density, but it may be necessary to do that if we want to be able to meet the numbers that we're getting about having land capacity for housing. So those will be fun discussions. Housing is going to be probably, besides land use, well, no, climate too. Housing, land use, climate, and transportation, those are our 4 big elements.
And are you looking at flooding in the climate too?
Yeah, we'll look at that for sure. We, right now, the consultant, and I don't know how they, I mean, thankfully they're doing it, but there are models that they're using to get numbers on the existing greenhouse gases in the city. So when we get all that information, I mean, I'm gonna learn right along with them, but that's where we're gonna start developing policies around it. That's all I have for now.
Very well. Thank you very much, Gary. That's
Yeah.
very informative.
So that date of when things are due of December of 2025. I'm gonna assume that that also applies to the parks plan. So when I talk to Cody, I'm gonna go based on that.
Yeah. Well, I think that if we want the parks plan to be, I mean, those are 2 different.
It was last time, but we used it.
If we want to be sure that we have adequate parks planning done, we would want it done before we finish the comp plan, so we could just reference it. But yeah, we can figure that out.
Very well.
And I will send along the PowerPoint that I had for today and that checklist. I think I covered it. It's a freshly done PowerPoint, so I think I covered it.
All right, we move on to agenda item number 9, public hearings, and there are none. On to agenda item number 10, subcommittee reports to the parks.
Parks, oh, well, I can tell you that there's preparation meetings going on for Christmas in the park. And also, a lot of current planning that's happening for the Halloween. And trails for kids and spooky park events, some that are for really scary for adults that are willing to do it. And not scary for kids that are willing to be there with their parents. So there's gonna be a really good Christmas in the park later on. There's an entire set
You
of
have
people
dates
that are
on it?
meeting. Oh, I should have dates. It's the first Saturday in December. And I don't know which day that is. I think it's like the 8th or something.
7th.
The 7th,
Chris.
7th.
Thank you. Anything else on the, please?
So we got a tree board meeting on Monday, right?
Monday, we're gonna meet in October, I'm not sure if we're gonna meet in November or not. I don't know yet. But I really wanna nail down the school's involvement, I know it can be tough, but we don't have transportation. But if we can get our ideas solidified in house schools before the winter break. And the formers lined up, that would be ideal,
So Monday pretty much is honed down on who we think.
exactly.
All right, no further commission reports. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Motion been seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.